Good morning. My name is Matt Minner, and with Catalyst Connection, I'd like to welcome you to our Digital Discovery webinar this morning. And today, our topic, we're going to be talking about the augmented enterprise and powering the next generation of manufacturing with AI. I'd like to welcome Problem Solutions and Mike Harushka. How are you doing today, Mike?
Doing great. Excited to join you and excited to share about the awesome transformational opportunity in front of everybody out in this world today.
Well, we're excited to hear more about this topic you're talking about, what you're going to share, what folks can learn, and then also a little bit more about Problem Solutions and how you work with manufacturers. So before I hand it over to Mike, as is customary, we're just going to do a brief overview here of the program that makes this possible, our Digital Bridge program, which is a Build Back Better initiative through the Economic Development Administration. And this is a program we started in 2023. This was through the Build Back Better program as part of a larger coalition, excuse me. And our whole focus is supporting regional manufacturers with technology adoption. And so that's what we have this webinar series, is to help talk about what the latest and greatest, some of the new evolution of technology and how it's able to help with a lot of manufacturing challenges that we hear about every day and every time we visit manufacturers. It's not just Catalyst. We have a whole team of partners that work on this project. And so that includes the University of Pittsburgh, the CMU Manufacturing Futures Institute, the Digital Foundry at New Kensington, the Pittsburgh Technology Council, and JARI out of Johnstown, all with a little bit of a different element that they're bringing, all with resources that can help support our regional manufacturers, and that's you. And along those resources, that ranges from technical assistance in terms of doing assessments, identifying opportunities for advanced technology in your operations, doing some R&D and demonstration, leveraging the facilities like Digital Foundry. We have access to capital, so capital assistance programs and awards that keep in mind are almost exhausted. We're probably about 80% exhausted on there. We're hoping to secure some additional funding, but that's going fast, so definitely reach out if that's of interest. Workforce development and a specific program with the University of Pittsburgh, and that's the Pennsylvania Robotics and Technology Fellowship. This is all geared towards connecting you with your challenges and projects that, especially ones that maybe you just don't have the time to get to, connect you with a team of 4 graduate students across a range of disciplines that are handpicked to support your challenge. And they work a very rapid 8-week project to help move that project forward for you. It's a great opportunity for students to engage in manufacturing and vice versa for you to engage with the future workforce. And really, while we're talking today about some AI aspects, it's technology across the boards that Digital Bridge is eligible to support, be it robotics, digitization, additive, even cybersecurity. So it really covers a wide range of anything that manufacturers may be exploring in the technology space. And finally, we've had, I think this is our 7th, perhaps, I'm kind of losing track right now, but somewhat around our 7th Digital Discovery webinar. We hold them twice a month, same time, 10:30, the 2nd and 3rd Thursday of the month. So stay tuned for our next sessions, and if you've missed any of the prior ones, we do have them on demand, that you can get all the access to them at your convenience. So with that, I would like to turn it over to Mike. I'm going to make you the presenter, and we'll let you take it away. As he's talking, feel free to go ahead and post questions in there's a questions bar on your sidebar, if you want to call it that, on GoToWebinar, and also in the chat. I'll be watching there, and we'll interject with questions as it makes sense, and then certainly at the end of the presentation, we'll circle back for some additional questions. So take it away, Mike.
Sounds great. Thanks, Matt. I'm super excited to be with y'all. I love technology. I grew up playing and building and breaking and supercharging every technology you can imagine. with my brother, who's 2.5 years younger than me. I was lucky to spend a few years at the National Institute of Standards and Technology in the material science and building fire research and transportation space. I was lucky to have my brother there with me. We started Problem Solutions 20 years ago in January, and have been helping organizations, from Fortune 500 companies to early stage technology companies and the government on applying emerging technologies as a strategic business advantage. And I think we're at this wonderful inflection point here, but a little bottom line up front. AI, at the end of the day, is just really good software. I had this argument with our chief scientist, Dr. Dennis Folds, for a while, and he said, let's just assume that AI is just a design aspiration, was his viewpoint, and it's just really good software. And I struggled with that for a while, but once I started to accept that, I realized that, okay, what does this good software do? It augments us. It augments us as individuals. It augments us as teams. It augments our organization. Hence the idea of the augmented enterprise. And so the world is changing super fast. And there really can't be a business as usual attitude. And basically every organization from small to large is stuck in some way trying to figure out, where do I do this AI thing? Where do I start? What are all the things I could do? What's meaningful? Einstein said we can't use the same consciousness to solve a problem that created it. And so in order to do differently, we need to think differently. And that thinking differently will help us get unstuck, essentially towards our potential future. So my goal here today is to help you think a little bit differently and give you some more information broadly about AI, and also to be very focused on manufacturing and the use cases that are there. So I'll encourage you, if you have a notepad or your favorite notebook or any of those things, as we're walking through this, you might come up with any of these three questions. Why would we use AI? If we use it, what might a hopeful outcome be? And also, what are the metrics? Spending time at NIST and thinking about metrology for a long time, we've got to know that what we did had an effect. And I think that folks in manufacturing more than anyone are about metrics. Jim Fan is NVIDIA researcher and a Stanford PhD, and I love this tweet because this pretty much sums it up. We're going to be riding this exponential curve. We're sitting here in front of a rapidly rising capability for this y-axis, which is human progress. If you think about it, when we discovered electricity, it took years and years for us to build generation, transmission, and distribution. AI is a truly exponential technology because we have all the infrastructure to distribute it, and AI helps us build AI solutions even faster. So we're at an unprecedented point in human history. AI concept and things have been around since the 50s. Now, we had what I would call the dark ages, when we were trying to get people to the moon, and all the smart scientists were working on getting people to space and back safely. But what's happened over decades is only really weeks of progress. And what we're looking at right now is decades of progress in weeks. These are just the major releases in 2023, and this only continues. There's a massive amount of investment in building out capabilities that allow organizations to adapt to AI, adopt AI, and adapt as a result of that. What starts as a toy is becoming a tool and eventually becoming a teammate for us inside of our organizations. So a couple of impacts. IBM says 77% of businesses are already exploring or using AI. I would chalk that up to someone over in marketing is playing with ChatGPT in some cases. And in some cases, there are people that actively have governance and a proof of concept that are built out there. But I think you could see there's momentum here. The World Economic Forum says 97 million new jobs will be created by 2025. They also say 85 million are going to disappear. So it's a very interesting time, but there's a lot of people in the workforce, 81% of office workers, thinks that AI could improve their job performance. Just a little bit of the model to unpack this. So if we're going to use AI to augment us as an individual or a team or even a business unit in some ways, we think about this as an augmented enterprise. And an augmented enterprise is an organization that's continually evolving, sensing, augmenting, and adapting, considering your learning ecosystem, so people, process, measurement, tools, analytics, and experiences, considering the ideas of an adaptive learning organization, putting people first, data-driven decisions, seeking problems, things that come from the lean thinking world. Then this concept of augmented intelligence teams. I'll give you a good example. I was working with a global manufacturer in the sugar space, and we had a workshop of 28 people. We explored some of the things I'm sharing with you today, did some other exercises, broke everyone out into groups, and only 4 people out of this group had actually used AI tools before. And I noticed one group saw 2 people with their cell phones, and they're very excited. I said, "What are you doing?" I said, "We're using ChatGPT to help us." I said, "That's fantastic. Tell me how you're using it." And they said, "We asked it to give us ideas for AI in manufacturing." I said, "That's okay. That's one thing to do. But often the answer is inside of us, and we need AI to bring out our human intelligence." And so I said, "Start over. Pretend an intern, 20-year-old Sam just walked in. Tell Sam your names, your degrees, your role at the company. Tell Sam your goal for this workshop, and ask Sam to just ask you questions." And they looked at me like I had more than one head, and they did it, and every team did it. And in 1 hour, they identified more things than you can imagine. People said things like, "We did more in 1 hour to define the future of our business than we have done since I've been here." So there's a real power here, not just in AI giving us the answer, but in it's building our collective intelligence inside of our organizations. You might think about it like this. You have a real org chart of humans in a hierarchy. There's also the hierarchy, who trusts who, and that might be different than your hierarchy. But imagine having virtual agents that not just support individuals to do tasks, but help to coordinate individuals together in meaningful ways. Like, "Matt, Mike, I'm noticing this thing on the production line. This metric seems to be not directionally correct. Before it hits the threshold, I think we should intervene." So there are a ton of use cases where we can take our flashlight of attention and apply it in different ways by thinking about supporting our real org chart with our virtual org chart. A couple questions that really apply to any organization, what we call the guiding HMWs, or how might we upskill people and build their digital skills. It's absolutely critical, because if we're going to make these things tools and teammates, we've got to start with playing with them. How do we know what use cases and pilots we should do? There's a ton inside of all organizations broadly, but there's some very specific use cases inside of manufacturing that I'm going to walk through with you. And then when we have a pilot, how do we take it to scale? How do we change people, processes, culture? How do we think about governance and security? How do we amplify performance? That's really the operative question. We've got this new thing called AI, and we'll think of it as just really good software. How do we install that inside our business and truly amplify the performance of our organization? Broadly, you can change a lot of things, from competitiveness and sustainability and scalability to driving business growth, democratizing knowledge, thinking about engagement and productivity. There's a ton of work that you can do in customer experience and learning experience. And these are a broad set of items to dig deeper into manufacturing here. So there's some value drivers, and the question is, what is worth doing? So can you improve workforce productivity? Is it possible to improve product performance and quality? And can you improve the efficiency of your assets? Now, there is some real impact here associated with maintenance, whether that's predictive maintenance, demand planning, forecasting, quality, and all of these things together significantly increase the value for enterprises. But generally, use cases kind of fall in the quality control and assurance, real-time production monitoring, and process optimization elements. So a couple of the whys here. So predictive maintenance is a very popular use case. Downtime is extremely costly, and I'm sure that everyone knows generally what the cost of downtime is, because anytime you experience it, you experience the pain and you quantify that pain. So understanding and being able to predict machine behavior. Some of this involves digital twins as well, which is a topic all in itself. The concept of scrap reduction can also be a major value driver. Increasing throughput is also another big value driver, and as well as demand and inventory forecasting. Predictive quality is another area that we also see a lot of gathering around. And Matt, feel free at any time if there's a question to pop in, or if anyone has a question, feel free to share it in the chat. I'm glad to dig in. But these are the big.
Keeping watch on that. We absolutely will. Thanks, Mike.
Thank you. And so these are the big areas. There are essentially 17 use cases that are key. And so this is where I'm going to ask you not to ask a question, but to give an answer. As you look at this, AI robots in manufacturing, AI in logistics, supply chain management, autonomous vehicles, factory automation, IT ops, design, IoT, warehouse management, process automation, predictive maintenance, product dev, really deep on the connected factory, visual inspection, QC, purchasing price variance, order management, and cyber. I'm interested if anyone, I'd love if everyone could participate, if you don't mind, but I'm really interested to see if you could see one of these use cases that would be valuable and set in the context of your own organization. If you wouldn't mind adding those to the chat. Or if anyone has any good why AI or hopeful outcomes, I'd love it, because we're all here to learn from each other and learn together. The future's fuzzy. We can change it together.
Yeah, so just look in the chat. I supposed the question there. What do you see in that list that might be beneficial to you, or other areas that you've considered?
Wait, was that question for me or for everyone?
No, I was just restating what you had said. But I think in the meantime, I'll keep watch for what people may come back with. But why don't you can go ahead and continue.
Sounds good. So there's a lot of vectors that are there for possibilities inside. There are a couple general challenges too associated with it. So just because we do something at the proof of concept level for one machine on one line, how do we take that and move that to scale? Some considerations behind that are things like the cost of compute, or the cost of the hardware based to do compute. Is the juice worth the squeeze? Right? If we save $80,000 and it costs us $81,000, I don't think your CFO is going to high five you about that. Another element that's important, is reliability. According to S&P Global Market Intelligence Support, 38% of companies realize that data is a really, really big challenge for them in their AI journey. And so not just having the data today, but creating very clean and very good data so that you can be assured of the reliability of the data that is generated with AI. Getting buy-in is extremely easy in some cases and extremely hard in most. So getting your executive sponsor, helping them to understand the importance of this, considering the idea that you probably have competitors out there. If you're lucky enough to have the monopoly, congratulations. However, what are your competitors doing? Do you have any competitive intelligence about what it is that they might be doing? Let's just assume that they're moving faster than you. I think that's a good opportunity to get your executive sponsorship. And then the other key thing is people and change. As soon as people hear AI in an organization, they get very afraid. And so understanding what the company's position is on AI in terms of governance. How will you communicate your use of AI internally to your team? How do you communicate your use of AI externally to your customers and the market? But change management is a critical thing. The technology is really here to do everything and anything that we actually want. Our real challenge is in engineering and change management. Those are the extremes that we ultimately need to deal with.
One question
yep.
come in here, Mike. When you talk about these different use cases, how do you then look at use case and what AI tools may be beneficial for them?
Yeah, absolutely. So our approach to this is to think about what is meaningful for the business itself, and it's what we call an AI accelerator. So we have a process with some workshops and interviews that helps to identify the whole range of use cases that are possible in an organization, and really rank them in terms of effort and impact, and get some buy-in and consensus with the stakeholder group, and to take a select group of those use cases, detail out what a proof of concept would look like, and then identify, do some technology matching and selection for those a specific use case, and then use that specific technology for building the proof of concept. And the proof of concept could succeed, or the proof of concept may need a different technology versus the one that was chosen to get the specific outcome, and then taking the POC to scale. So I think about it like this: it's like shining a flashlight everywhere, and then shining a laser beam on a single point, getting out the microscope, going extremely deep. If it's for product development, as an example, going extremely deep with the stakeholders, really understanding what processes they use, what artifacts are consumed, what artifacts are created, where the bottlenecks might be, and trying to solve very highly focused bottleneck type problems inside of any given process. I hope that was helpful. I could probably talk to 10 minutes on that subject.
Yeah, no, I think that covered it. I want you to get through some of these other topics you have. So yeah, thank you.
It sounds good. And so you can think about this as a maturity model. Basically, everybody starts as reactive. Yeah, there's a thing called AI. I hear about it on CNBC all the time, but they don't really have a strategy. And maybe some people are doing ad hoc experiments. Maybe whomever over in marketing's trying something, and someone else is playing around. But these are toy, level experiments. And so where you start to move away from that is saying, we're going to use AI. As an example, a year and a half ago, we saw what was happening with OpenAI's releases and said, we're going to become an augmented enterprise. We're going to build agents that serve everybody inside the organization: sales, marketing, finance, product development, engineering, consulting, all of it. And we built our own agents because we're a change management consulting and engineering company, the two things required to really bring this into your organization. And so we established our strategy and governance, and we set up pilots and we set up initiatives. And we're between the operational and the optimized. So we have in production environments, we're scaling it consistently, upskilling our team members along the way. And then you move into the optimize, and then ultimately the innovative phase. And this is an important, I think it's an important thing for stakeholders to say, there's something way farther down the road that we need to be, and we need to get moving on expanding our awareness, building a strategy, doing pilots, and setting initiatives out in some way. So there are 5 steps as an organization, no matter what industry you're in. Number one, you got to figure out what this stuff can do. You got to figure out what is possible, right? So you have all these different use cases. So it's important to understand what toys are out there and start playing with things. If you don't have an OpenAI account, I'd strongly recommend that you get an OpenAI account and just start playing with ChatGPT. There's a ton of other tools that are out there. Lucas Petty, also known as AI Daddy, used to have a list of 600 tools. He just released a list of 2,500 AI tools that are out there, categorized by their use and functionality. The next thing is to really align the learning strategy. So how are we going to learn about what AI is and what AI can do with our business strategy? So what are the KPIs that we need to focus on? Where is the impact that we need? What are the barriers? And aligning our knowledge and capabilities. And the third thing is the people element. We've got to motivate and shift mindsets. We've got to be able to make this a business imperative that we get unstuck and start moving. We've got to unlock budget. These things are going to take time. And in order to unlock budget, you got to kind of have a clear idea of some use cases and what metrics might be moved and how that will ultimately impact the ultimate or organizational KPIs as well. And then pilot and growing. And this is using lean thinking. Don't choose the hardest use case out of the gate. There's a bunch of best practices and pitfalls that, if you'd like to learn more about those, I'm glad to share. We don't have enough time to cover those today. But in our own journey, we learned a whole lot of stuff, and love to share those things. But it's about measurement and performance and effectiveness, and you've got to be able to prove it before you take it to scale. And once you take it to scale, you've got to be able to sustain it and measure that you're driving the business outcomes. So those are the 5 key
One
steps.
question here
Sorry?
on that slide, Mike.
Yeah.
Granted, it's kind of a overall technology adoption strategy to some extent, but a little bit of just to say, okay, you want to get into AI and this is the way you go. But what about the companies that just don't see how it helps? What are some of the factors that they should look for that would say, yeah, this could benefit me, because they've got lots of priorities on their plate and can only do so many things at a time. So what are some of the factors you've seen with companies where, yeah, that's a good fit? Is it the data that they have, or where their challenges fall, or what would you recommend to companies to take a look at doing that
Yeah.
stuff?
So that's a super great question. I'll give you a super easy answer that's actually not on the slides. Let's just assume that you say our production's good enough, our quality's great. Not exactly sure where to start. Well, do you want more revenue? Because you can use AI to empower your sales team in an unbelievable way. I have several folks that we're working with on just expanding the sales pipeline, helping them build their sales intelligence, helping them build their sales teams faster. When you bring a new salesperson in, you got to train them. You got to give them opportunities to practice. You've got to give them the ability to prepare for calls. They have to have all the organizational data, in one place. So if you say, well, we're pretty good at what we do, we just don't do enough of it, the number one place you can start is selling more, because that's the thing that will ultimately break your manufacturing processes if you 5x your revenue, right? So that is an area that I think anyone can really start in. It's essentially, how do I empower my sales team to be better? How do I empower my sales team? 80% of the revenue often comes from 20% of the sales team. And so what if you could make the other 80% of the sales team closer, approximated to that 20% of the best? And that's one of the areas that I think has the most juice for an organization that's kind of happy with their quality, happy with their throughput and output and efficiency, and generally happy is like, all right, good, then just grow and scale using AI for extreme sales intelligence and some unfair advantage.
And just one follow-up on that is to direct that a little more. Let's say, we've all been on the roller coasters. We see that you must be this tall to ride this ride. What would be on that sign for AI? What are the kind of the requirements to start going down that path? Is it like you got a machine shop, they're all manual, is to the extreme example, all manual, all paper documentation, like no data? I would assume that probably wouldn't be a good place for them to start, because they don't have some of the requisites. What are some of those prerequisites that companies should also be aware of before they would kind of spend time going down this path?
Well, I would say that just about any organization of any size can use AI in some meaningful way for some meaningful task inside.
Okay.
Not that you're going to augment your entire enterprise, but I have next week I do some regional things as well. I'll be doing like a 2.5-hour boot camp with a whole bunch of CEOs and CTOs from regional companies here in Johnstown. And there'll be things like the Learning Lamp there, nonprofit, helps kiddos. They've been at previous sessions that I've done, and they've revamped their marketing and the way that they do their grant writing and other things. So you can use it for contracts, you can use it for marketing materials, you can use it for product materials. You don't necessarily have to use it inside your manufacturing process. There are a lot of things associated with your business itself that you can use AI for.
Very good. Thanks, Mike.
I see we're bumping up against the top of the hour here. So these are sort of the key 13 things that you need to understand. You'll notice on the left here, the inspiration side is what I challenge you with out of the gate, which is, why would you use AI in hopeful outcomes? Well, I might just use it to write product stuff or materials, or, oh, no way, I have this one machine, and if it's down, we lose $1 million an hour. Well, okay, that's probably a candidate for a digital twin for predictive maintenance, along the way. But then the second element of the thinking is, I figured out why I would use it and all of these things, but what's the considerations? Like, what do I need to think about? Oh, security, yeah, that's one of the considerations. There's a bunch of considerations that are specific to your business, specific to your team. And then my favorite is known unknowns. What do we know that we don't know, and how are we going to find it out? And then identifying a couple next steps to deal with our inspiration and our considerations and unknowns. But the real sort of work comes in defining what are the use cases, what are the pilots that I can run or proofs of concept to demonstrate that this use case has viability, and then what's my data? Like I'll give you a good example. We have an HR agent when we're recruiting someone. We don't even talk about HR benefits or employee policy or any of that stuff. We send them the HR agent, and they can interface with the HR agent, text, get the answer, and HR agent's always right, because our HR policy and information doesn't change all that much. And so it's something that's generally static. Maybe there's updates that are once a year. So that data readiness is really good. But where you have a serious data flow, in some cases, you might be challenged. Or you might have some data on paper and some data digital, and that also presents a challenge. And then coming along the line here to capabilities. Do you have the capabilities inside? Do you need to hire to get the capabilities, or do you need to partner to get the capabilities? Because at the end of the day, there's a strategy for your organization. There has to be an element of governance that's defined in order to define the investments and the hopeful outcomes with very clear metrics for the business as well. I gave you the 5 steps, I gave you those elements, but bottom line is you gotta have more than one person that believes in the dream. Chris Hively wrote the book called Build the Fort, and it's a great book for startups. And he says in there that anything entrepreneurial you're ever gonna do, you've learned all the skills that you needed when you built a fort as a kid. And I've never met a person that didn't build a fort, or at least I haven't yet. And so that's finding a team that believes in the dream. That's getting spare parts. That's putting something together, seeing what works, seeing what doesn't work, and iterating there. And so those key elements, the 13 that I showed you, that's where you find a team that believes in the dream, and you really start to put the detail. That's right out of our AI Accelerator playbook. That's the first thing, that we really start with an organization to understand and put things in buckets. And then it's about defining around your use cases that are worth doing it for effort and impact, your prototypes and pilots as well. But I mean, bottom line, the race is on. Everybody's in it. My metaphor would be, I do not believe the Earth is flat, but if the Earth was flat, the day that ChatGPT 3.5 was released, it's like everything got covered with a fine layer of lubricant that froze and tilted towards the future faster than we can imagine. We're all sliding towards it. And I love Stephen Hawking, and I love this quote, because it's a race between the growing power of technology and the wisdom with which we use it. So I hope I provided you some nuggets that will help you increase your wisdom with which you use it. And glad to take a couple questions or give you guys your time back.
Well, thank you very much, Mike. It was great information and a great session. I think we've got one question here. You talked about the AI agents. Can you expand a little bit more on how those can be used for internal documentation? Say you've got engineering data, customer data, and being able to help people, as I say, use their internal resources more effectively and efficiently.
Yeah, absolutely. So, open tools like OpenAI, ChatGPT, they know a lot of stuff. They know all about dinosaurs and cancer and like everything in the world, but they don't know about you and they don't know about your business. And so we tend to think of that as a chat bot when it doesn't really know you. But when something knows you and it knows your business and it knows essentially the corpus of your organization, it starts to become a lot more useful. Now, if that thing actually had behavior, and I've been doing DoD and NSF funded work on this for years, you actually build something that has skills and knowledge and behavior, that's an agent. And that's why we refer to them as agents. And so an HR agent knows all about HR. You talked about HR, but we have a product development agent that knows all our methodologies, all our templates, all of our things with very little information I could put into that agent. That agent will spin up a team of other agents and do a creative session all on its own, and then bring me back the summary report of it. It used to take like 14 hours of human time. It takes 14 seconds now. So that's a massive sort of change. We have an agent that knows everything we've ever done. All of our sales, proposals, product requirements, specifications, all of that. So anytime we're doing something new, we talk to that agent, and it helps us plan strategically, think about R&D programs as well. But yeah, I'm glad, I'm not exactly sure who asked the question, but if you reach out to me, am I still sharing my screen or no?
Yes, yes, you are.
I am. Oh, all right, cool. I'll go back to the beginning. Here's my QR code. If you reach out to me, I'm glad to demonstrate some agent technology for you. My email is also easy. It's mike@problemsolutions.net. But there's a ton of stuff you can do with agents. We actually have a voice-based agent that our leadership team talks to on a daily basis. That's a coach, a facilitator, a mentor, a cheerleader, and just helps you to stay motivated and helps you reflect. And imagine if everyone in your organization had a performance coach. It's expensive. This is not. It's like pennies a day, basically.
Well, that was very helpful, Mike. And yes, that type of system can, like you said, a lot of this, there's not one organization that couldn't benefit in some fashion. And it's just a matter of who's got those big nuggets and whose are smaller and maybe harder to quantify, but clearly beneficial. So with that, I want to thank you again for joining us, Mike, and sharing all this great information. As we mentioned before, this webinar will be posted. We'll share out the link so you can take a look at it again. You have Mike's contact information. I posted that in the chat, and also feel free to reach out to myself. We can, put you in touch with Mike and, anywhere else you may be exploring technology-wise. So with that, I hope everyone has a great day, great afternoon, and thanks so much, Mike.
Thanks, everybody.
All right, take care.